Welcome back. Well, the ANC has denied knowledge of an invoice amounting to 100 million rand from a company which claims to have printed 35,000 election posters. Now, the ANC says the Treasurer General, who is the custodian of procurement matters within the ANC, had not authorised any procurement. Now, the party says Paul Mashatile has instituted an urgent investigation into actually establishing the facts. Well, let's get the facts as we know it. Let me bring in Pule Mabe, who is the ANC spokesperson. Mr. Mabe, always a pleasure having you in studio. All right, 100 million rand, 35,000 election posters printed. That's the allegation. What's your response?
Well, morning and morning to your viewers. This issue has been brought to the attention of the Treasurer General, who became aware only when it was brought to his attention, which effectively suggests that he would not have been party to approvals and all of that. The ANC has got a very tight procurement process. We have got a treasury unit that is based at the 8th floor of Lituli House with a chief financial officer. All of the procurement activities that are undertaken by the ANC, they are on the basis of a quotation that shall have been received or a proposal of sort with associated finances, necessary approvals being given. So that funds are necessarily apportioned to be able to fulfill the payment of such activities once work has been executed. Right. So the Treasurer General has been made aware of this through the tendering of an invoice at his office. And what he has since done was that he has briefed both his office, the Treasurer General's office, to undertake an investigation, to establish the facts, understand what really happened here, whether our processes were not overlooked, what would have been the issues.
So these 35,000 posters, they were received by the ANC?
Well, from the statement that we issued yesterday, I mean, the TG himself, as the custodian of the ANC property as per the ANC constitution, was not aware. He has instituted an investigation, which investigation will be able to unravel the facts. And upon being furnished or receiving the necessary facts, we will be able to communicate out to the public. We can tell you now that the legal team as well has been brought on board to be able to look at this, because there's already an expressed intent to have this matter ventilated in a court of law.
So the ANC doesn't know at this stage whether these 35,000 posters was used in the last election?
Well, of course, that's why the ANC need to do an investigation. The ANC must do an investigation to establish the procurement of this, understand who authorized this kind of a transaction, understand who shall have received the quotation, establish if there were funds to undertake such kind of an activity. Because the ANC is a very responsible organization. By the time we take a decision, by the time the Treasurer General takes a view to procure whatever is required, whether it's for elections or at the office in the normal course, he will have had to satisfy himself that there are funds within the treasury coffers to be able to fulfill such assignments.
So we're talking about 100 million rand, that's a lot of money. Was that paid over to this company?
Well, the reason why the company is bringing it right into the ANC and expressing an intent, it means that no. But you see, it would have been difficult to do payments when certain of those things aren't proved. You see, it is premature for now to enter into that space. Safe to say that the investigation that the TG is undertaking is a necessary means through which we'll be able to establish what really happened here.
So in terms of the process, who signs off on a transaction like this?
Well, for that kind of a big amount, the Treasurer General of the African National Congress, who's the custodian of our property, will have to be aware. Otherwise, if he's not aware, it then falls into the province of unauthorized expenditure. But to be able to say so...
So you're saying he wasn't aware? Well, he wasn't aware of this?
That's why an investigation is being undertaken.
So we don't know whether he was aware or not?
We know that he was not aware.
He was not aware?
The statement did say that he was not aware.
All right.
That's why, you see, part of what you are investigating is that, one, you also have to establish if there are no acts of fraud associated with a transaction like this. So that if there are instances or you believe or suspect that there could have been some fraudulent conduct associated with the transaction itself, then you are also able to take certain measures. But you see, at this stage, it's rather premature. The service provider has expressed their intent in the manner that they have done. We have briefed our legal eagles who are looking into the matter. We will be able to come back to the public and communicate the position of a full position of the ANC now with facts before us. All we know, at least, is that the Treasurer General was not aware, which makes this to fall into the province of an unauthorized expenditure.
So let's understand the process when say for instance you're procuring posters for an election or a campaign.
Yes.
How does it happen? Where does it start?
Well, ordinarily matters of procurement are a function of the Treasury. The Treasury of the ANC is charged with the responsibility of running supply chain in the same way that you have got a communication subcommittee, and then in the communication subcommittee you have got the head of DIP, who also happens to be the national spokesperson of the ANC, who is then the custodian of communicating and issuing statements of the African National Congress on a daily basis. And then you have got the chairperson of the communication subcommittee, who is a comrade Ngengegekan, who has got the responsibility to provide the overall political oversight of the subcommittee, looking to policies that would, in the normal course, govern your work here at the public broadcaster. So the same thing, look at it now, flip it on the other side, on the side of the Treasury. It means that as the custodian of the ANC property and all our asset register and finances, the Treasury of the ANC has got a responsibility to make sure that there is a process in place, quotations are received, or proposals, budgets are made available if there is monies, because we are a political party. We are in the business of producing ideas, and out of them run the affairs of society.
So we can narrow this down to somebody within the TG's office that dropped the ball, allegedly.
Well, it could be also premature to say so. The ANC acting on its own, acting for its own interest and at its own behest, has taken it up upon itself to institute an investigation. Now, a self-respecting party, when it does that, it means that it wants to make sure that when it goes out to pronounce itself, whether when it says that there could have been acts of fraud, there could have been unauthorized expenditure, people who might have acted on this transaction, whatever, there was no quotation, whatever that you might want to arrive at. Because I'm sure that the service provider, talking to our own legal team, they will be able to share whatever information they have at their own disposal, and the legal team would also be able to check and confer with our own comrades at the TGO's office to make sure that we are at one.
Look, no doubt that we will have you back in this chair to give us the results of this investigation. I want to maybe get where the ANC's head is on other issues. Let's start off with the president's speech yesterday addressing gender-based violence. Do you think he struck the right tone?
Well, he did. Actually, we are issuing a statement this morning to welcome the efforts undertaken by the ANC-led government under President Ramaphosa. We think that it's a step in the right direction, and we believe that all of those efforts should be embraced because they are necessary actions to be able to decisively deal with gender-based violence. The fact that there is over R1 billion that has been set aside to make sure that there are also centers that could provide the necessary support. This is consistent with our own pronouncement at the 54th National Conference, where we spoke about such centers which are in a position to be able to provide the support so needed out in our communities.
The president did say that all political parties needs to put this issue, gender-based violence, violence against women, against children, at the very top of their agenda.
Correct.
Is the ANC doing that?
The ANC is doing that. Actually, there has been quite, a week ago, our own Women's League championed and led efforts towards a national stay away that was led by the ANC Women's League. All female staffers at Lituli House were given time off as part of respecting those actions. We in the ANC
But is that,
as well.
Mr. Mabe, is that enough to, when you hear women coming out to the fore and saying they're tired of using black, they're tired of marching in the streets, they're tired of, making gestures to say that, we remain silent, we remain hurt. In terms, that's ostensibly that's there, right? It's good to project that, it's good to show support. But what action is happening on the ground in order to make a difference?
Well, the one decisive action happening on the ground is the efforts announced by the president yesterday.
Yeah.
Is the measures that are being undertaken by our own ANC Women's League, by the Young Women's Desk within the ANC Women's League. We have made the issue of gender-based violence to be at the center of the work that we do, and we have ensured that our structures throughout the country, the more than 3,000 branches that we have of the African National Congress, that they make this their daily program. They go out in communities, make sure that the community policing forums are strengthened to be able to respond at the requisite speed where they become aware of such actions, and to also make sure that those who are found wanting in such acts are exposed, named and shamed.
Mm-hmm. Look, no doubt the president used language such as there's a dark and heavy shadow across our land and women and children in this country are under siege. So it's strong language, but I guess it's appropriate in order to reflect the seriousness of this matter. In other news, we hear that the sexual assault case or harassment case against Marius Fransman was withdrawn. Apparently, there's been an agreement reached between the affected parties. What's the ANC stance with regards to his suspension? Is the door open for talks?
Well, the ANC has not really reflected on these issues. I mean, it's news that came out in the public, and I'm sure that at the appropriate time, when the ANC finds space to reflect on such, it will be able to communicate its own decision. I mean, the fact that the parties have themselves reached their own agreement outside the organization, it is only fair that we allow matters to continue in the manner that they have continued, especially where peace has been found, because really what we are championing is to make sure that there is sanity, there is harmony, people could be able to coexist and feel that they belong to one society when no one's rights are infringed. And this is what we've always been campaigning and canvassing for.
Well, there was talk about putting in place policies within the ANC with regards to sexual harassment. Where is the party on that at this stage?
Well, the ANC has got a sexual harassment policy now to make sure that when instances of sexual harassments do come up, they could be able to be addressed using that same policy.
So that policy is in place and in
that
effect.
policy does exist. You'll also remember that, I mean, earlier this year, I was also party and subject to a sexual harassment case that was brought in the organization. And out of that process, there was a decision to put forward a policy. Now we have got a policy, and that policy begins to guide how such cases have got to be attended to. And this now helps. And we have ensured that we take this policy and share it with broadly all our structures, because we want everyone, all employees of the ANC, to feel that they belong, whether they are men or women, to feel that their rights are protected. So what the policy does is that it removes instances of suspicion. It lays out a framework through which ANC staff members could be able to use should they have instances of or alleged instances of harassment, and give the organization an opportunity to be able to deal with those fairly and objectively. We are doing this because our organization is supposed to be exemplary. We are supposed to be the custodians of protecting the rights of women and children. We've got to make sure even those who are part of the LGBTQT community, they also have got to feel that the ANC, as part of its own social cohesion efforts, also accommodate all of them.
Right.
Because we believe that to build and make this country better, we need everyone working together, men and women.
Look, no doubt it needs to be a all hands on deck kind of approach.
I think, and you see, maybe as a parting shot, it is also important that as we speak about these issues, we also send our special birthday wishes to the Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress. She's turning 66 today.
Yeah.
And you know, she's a fervent feminist herself, and believe that the rights of women and children must always be protected in the African National Congress. So we are celebrating her courage, her inspiration, and we believe that she will continue to be a great example in our own movement and teach many other young women what it means to construct an organization that has got policies and get towards protecting even the rights of women within its own trenches.
You just realized that you did a shout out on a news program, isn't it?
No, man.
No, appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed.
No, thanks.
Pule Mabe is ANC spokesperson. We're going to take a quick break, get you more news next.